Thank you very much, Tim, and thank you for the invitation. And with that introduction, I think I should just say a few words about perhaps why I am the Dean of Agriculture at the University of Sydney. When I was 14, my mother, in her wisdom, put me on a bus, sent me to Deniliquin to be a jackaroo for a while. And on one of the famous Fletcher properties, as they were then known, I was on Wanganella for some time. And for those of you who know the area and know the history of those properties, which of course became owned by Rupert and then passed on to other ownership, it's an interesting area in the middle of the drought, which it was when I was there. Well, actually, it's always in the middle of the drought, let's face it, we're talking about the Riverina. But there I learnt to muster a few sheep. I learnt to drive a traction engine, unfortunately into the middle of the billabong. I learnt how to butcher a sheep, and most of all, I learnt how to unpack hay bales that have been in the same silo for 15 years. And as you know, when you get to the bottom of the hay pile in a shed that's been there for 15 years, it's pretty damn revolting work. So that was my introduction to agriculture. Later in life, I went to the University of Western Australia and worked in the rangelands in the north of Western Australia. And there I learnt what a difference some capital injection can make. Because in the large pastoral stations in the north of Western Australia, the mining companies have brought a very welcome injection of funds, and it's just amazing how sustainable pastoral industries can be with the right capital backing. So I've had a mixed background. I tried to get into agriculture when I was 17, mainly because they had a cadetship scheme still in those days. Unfortunately, the cadetship scheme closed the year I was trying to get in, and we didn't have enough money, so I ended up having to do a science degree and trying to get into agriculture the back door. But yeah, as life unfolds, you perhaps return to where you were always trying to get to at the very start. So here I am today as the Dean of Agriculture. My experience is broad. But I am here to talk to you today very much in my capacity as a leader of a faculty intimately involved in education. Now, one of my mentors in this journey has been Professor David Lindsay from the University of Western Australia, who, as many of you would know, is one of Australia's luminaries when it comes to fine wool breeding. David always hammered into us that tell the audience at the start what you're going to tell them, then halfway through remind them what you told them at the start you were going to tell them, and at the end tell them again what you told them you were going to tell them right at the start. So I'm going to go straight to the end of my talk and tell you what I'm going to tell you over and over and over again. Now, we are in the middle of an agri-skills crisis. No question. I don't think anyone in this room doubts it. The Governor-General has recently spoken about the importance of agriculture and food security, the first time in living memory. The Prime Minister seems to have finally understood that agriculture plays a significant role. Every international leader who is concerned about geopolitics understands that food security plays a very significant role in international relations. The head of the United Nations talks continuously about the focus on food security for the next 10 to 20 years. But here in Australia, we've been a little slow, I have to say. It has been dispiriting, I'm sure, to many to see how the media have handled agriculture for the last 15 or so years. It is welcome to see something of a return to good news stories in the last few years. But it is something that it took 15 years of bad media to bring us to where we are today, and I'm a firm believer not in miracles. I'm a firm believer that miracles don't happen. I'm a firm believer that if it takes 15 years to ruin something, it's probably going to take us 15 years to restore it. So we're at the start of a process. We're not going to be able to accelerate the increase in student interest overnight. This is going to be a long haul back. So one of the things, well, a number of the things that I've got to say today are about a long road. And I really want to emphasise that every one of us is going to need to be prepared to become an advocate, to become a lobbyist, to be members of committees, and to keep pushing, because this is not going to be an overnight fix. Now, I said a few moments ago I was going to tell you what I was going to tell you at the end of my talk. So let me just go through a few very simple things. Now, my presentation today I've actually prepared for you in written form, and so you can take it away. I am, after all, an academic. So I wasn't allowed to bring a PowerPoint presentation. But my next best thing is a piece of paper. So you will take away with you, won't you, my written presentation, and Tim has the box of them, and they'll be by the door, and I'll be there counting to see how many is left, okay? So take it with you. But and at the end of my paper and at the end of my talk, there are 9 suggestions of things that we can do to fix the agri-skills crisis in this country. Let me just rattle through a few of those early on, and then I'm going to go backwards.